Hey, welcome back to the vlog and to the channel. Very excited to be back. Clearly I'm in a different environment. I'm back home in Los Angeles, and it's been a fun actually return back. I was really nervous about coming back to LA. I was scared about coming back and feeling like it was all a dream. This trip that I had taken, this vacation to Mexico, this time away, this remote working situation. I worried that when I returned back to LA, all of that would be gone, and the experience and the light and the brightness and all of this inspiration that I had been feeling would sort of disappear, or I would feel resentful about being back, and over time, a couple of days or weeks, I'd be back in my old rut, back in my old life. So I was nervous about coming back. And instead, it's been actually very exciting to come back and to reintegrate into my life and to be amongst my things again and amongst my hobbies, amongst my old friends, in the familiar places, and to sort of see what it feels like being back in a new light. And I've been very surprised, pleasantly surprised, by how much of the inspiration from the trip to Mexico has sort of stuck with me, and how light and excited and hopeful and optimistic I've been feeling. So all is to say that I am back in my environment, I'm back amongst my things and back home and actually quite enjoying it, which is it's a good sign. I'm actually really enjoying that. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about my experience being in Mexico for that month, working abroad, and talk a little bit about why I thought it was a good experience and challenge for me, and some of the benefits and perks that I've experienced as a result of that month working and living in Mexico. As context, I went to Mexico City on the Remote Year program. So Remote Year is a program they've started as a 12-month program around the world where you could do 12 months in 12 different countries. I had a couple of friends of mine did that program, a friend of mine, Gustavo, and another friend, Kim, and they had talked about their great experiences. And I went onto that website and I said, I can't really sign up for a 12-month program. Then they've since launched 4-month programs and 1-month programs. And I thought 1 month would be a nice way to sort of dip my toe in the water. I was thinking of something a little more exotic, somewhere I'd never been to before, like Peru or Colombia or Buenos Aires in Argentina, and ended up doing Mexico City. A couple of friends of mine had spent time in Mexico City and said, look, it's a vibrant city with endless culture and fun. And being that it was somewhat comfortable and familiar and convenient time zone wise for my current job, I thought I'd pull the trigger and try it out, and I've been very excited for it. So I thought I'd talk about sort of what my experience was like, and most importantly why it impacted me and how it impacted me. So when I first arrived in Mexico, I realized this was going to be a pretty hard reset for me. Couple of reasons. Number one, I'm used to living alone. I've lived alone for 10 years now since I moved to Los Angeles. I did have roommates in London, and when I came back, I started to live on my own, and it's been 10 years since I've moved here. So I haven't had roommates or flatmates in 10 years. And so the first thing was, on the Remote Year program, you do have the choice to either get your own place or you can choose to live with other people. And I took the default choice, which is to live with other people, and to also make a decision about what kind of living environment I wanted. Did I want to live in the party house with much more social people, or did I want to live kind of in a quieter home, which is more of my typical lifestyle? I spend a lot of time meditating, as you know. I spend a lot of time in solitude, reading and spending time with myself. I'm not a big partier. But I thought it would actually be a good challenge for me to live in the party house and see how I reacted in that space. So there was truly this big major reset that happened in terms of my living situation. I wasn't amongst my things, obviously. I had a much simpler life living out of a suitcase. I was living now in a situation with much more social people, which was also going to shake up my life a little bit. And of course, all of my usual comforts of knowing my local coffee shop, or how to walk to the grocery store, or my own routine, or just being in my space and being in my room and being amongst my things, all of that was taken away as part of this experience. And that reset was a really good shock to the system. It really helped me. I'd say the best thing about it, and I heard this from a number of people in the program, it helped me connect with my spark, helped me connect with who I am and the vigor and the passion that I have for life in a way. I think that reset and that change of scenery, sort of like the retreat experience that I was talking about with meditation, it sort of eliminated a lot of the outside comforts in a way that only allowed me to spend time with myself or be with myself and be resourceful with who I am. And that led to a lot of exciting new challenges, new experiences, and a lot of stimulation. So walking to the corner bakery in the morning, or finding my latest coffee shop, or figuring out where to get my groceries from, or figuring out the walk to the co-working space, walking around town and understanding the right of way, you know, in the States, or at least in LA and in places like London, you know, pedestrians have the right of way. In Mexico City, I learned that cars have the right of way. And so everything was being challenged. And this reset created such an exciting new space to operate in and be in that I had, I imagined it was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen to that extent. And it was quite exciting that it did. So I was pretty passionate about that. That reset was a good shock to the system. And it led to a number of cool other elements too. The second piece, the other element I think that was exciting, was that I got to connect with my people. And this is one that I think was the most important for me in this entire experience. If I were to kind of boil down the most important thing that happened for me being in this month abroad and working abroad for the last month, it absolutely is that I found my people. I connected with people who were like-minded and who shared this excitement and passion for travel that made me feel like I belong. I belong to a group of people, and that I have a sense of community. So let me back up and explain this one a little bit, because I think this is one that really touched me a lot, and I was really very grateful for. I have always loved to travel, and especially since I actually went to I lived in London for a while. As some of you know, I moved to London in 2008 after graduating college as part of a job transfer. And as soon as I did that, I'd say the first year was very difficult for me. I was very homesick, I was very lost, and I kept comparing angrily to America. Things closed early, it was cold, it was dark, it was inconvenient in some ways compared to the States. But over time, I found my community there. And then I really came to fall in love with the idea of living abroad. I felt special being an American in a foreign place, but I also had that passion, that zest, that excitement, that reset that I talked about. I had that all the time. You know, every morning I'd wake up and there was always something new to experience. You know, in a way, I felt like the words that were being used were slightly different than what I was used to. The way you'd order, the way things were arranged, the things on the menu, the grocery stores, like every little thing was different. And that difference gave me a sense of novelty and a playfulness with where I was. And more than anything, it just invigorated every part of me. It got me excited to walk out on the street, excited to go shopping, excited to go explore on the weekends. And that walkability of a city like London was also very exciting. When I moved back to LA, I kept saying that I really wanted to return back to London. London felt like my place. And also I had this passion for wanting to travel and live abroad. I pursued my Spanish citizenship, my Spanish passport, which I just got a few months ago. That's another, this sort of piece of me that really wanted to go live abroad and have that optionality to go live in a foreign country. That's always been bubbling up in me. And yet I've always felt a little bit of shame about wanting to live abroad. And I've tried to pinpoint what it is. Like, why do I feel like that's a deficiency instead of a benefit to want to live internationally? I think it comes down to some statements that I've heard in the past, some adages that I've heard. One of them being, you know, no matter where you go, your problems will go with you. That's one that made me have this sort of hesitation about wanting to live abroad, where I thought, oh, maybe I'm using this living abroad or wanting to live abroad thing to escape some problems. The other one was, what are you running away from? It's another one we hear a lot, or I've heard a lot in my past, and I spoke to a lot of people on the program. They also mentioned the same idea. They've also heard that quite a lot, people saying that to them as well. What are you running away from? So those two little seeds have been planted in my head over many, many years, where anytime I have this passion or interest in wanting to live abroad, there's always this sort of tainted, sort of over foreboding kind of tenor in the air, which is, what are you running away from? And your problems are going to follow you wherever you go. So I almost looked at it like a pathology, like a problem. If I want to live abroad, that's because I'm running away from something, or I don't really, I don't want to face something about myself, or I'm running away from a problem. So all of that to say, what I found instead when I traveled was my peace, the peace of mind that I have, my happiness, my joy. If anything, it came back. It wasn't like the problems were the things following me. I followed me. And I have a sense of peace. And I talked about my meditation practice. I have my passions. All those things came with me for the journey. And I just found that I was actually instead sort of sparked. I was excited. I was my best self when I was abroad. And the problems, my issues, or the things that I've been working through, my recent breakup and heartbreak that I've talked about, those feelings, the stuff that I was working with came with me, but it wasn't like this like avalanche of problems that I ultimately felt like I was using this trip or any travel as a tool to avoid things. And I think that's the distinction that was interesting and exciting for me to realize, was it wasn't like I was running away from problems. I was just excited to travel somewhere else. So that's a long preamble to say this. On the trip, I got the chance to, of course, talk to my roommates, my party animal roommates, and all the other people in the program. And we talked about travel and this passion and zest for travel. We philosophized about where did it come from, and who are we, and why does it matter to us. And what was so exciting was to meet other like-minded people who were saying, I'm interested in getting married one day. I'm interested in having children one day. Or I have passions and ambitions in my life. But for right now, travel is my number one priority. Travel is my top value. And I want to pursue that. Or other people who said, I don't want children. I've decided that travel is my thing. But in the constellation of people who were on this trip, I found everyone there had a passion for travel, and it was a part of who they are in a way that they accept. They accept that in themselves. They're excited to respect that passion in themselves, and they want to invest in that passion for themselves. And there was no sense of shame, because, hey, we're all travelers. We all love the sense of adventure. We get a kick out of things being a little unpredictable. We get a kick out of the unexpected days ahead of us, or walking into the park and sort of rolling with the punches and being improvisational with whatever comes our way. So being around other people like me who shared that passion gave me this ability to finally breathe out a sigh of relief and say, I found my people. I'm amongst my own people. And that sense of belonging, for those of you who have that sense of belonging, I think many people get it from their churches or religious congregations. They maybe get it from nonprofit work that they do, through their job and their coworkers, through other passions and hobbies. And I have many hobbies and passions, but I've never felt the sense of belonging, this sort of sigh of relief, the way I did here. And I think it's because maybe for me, travel also is a very high priority in my life. It's something that I really enjoy and appreciate, and living abroad and experiencing other cultures is something that I really can tap into and really appreciate. So I'd say, number one, this hard reset in life, this hard reset in this moment of my life to reconnect with myself was very cool. This idea of connecting with my own people and finding other people that are like-minded and that also love travel and prioritize it the way I do was another piece. And the third piece, I'd say, is with this context of now being in a hard reset where all of my creature comforts of home are gone, and I'm amongst my own people, I was able to just blossom and be and experience the city. So this brings me to my third point, and that is that I think because everything else was stripped away, I was able to reconnect with what I'm really passionate about. and really reconnect with the things that I care about and remember those things and invest in those things. I found myself, I wasn't too precious or pressured about what I was going to do or see in Mexico City. I didn't go on the trip saying I have to see these 500 things. Instead, I went with what I felt inspired to do, and I trusted that inspiration. And I found that I was really connecting to museums. That was something that I really was excited to do and try, and I had a chance to see many of the museums in Mexico City, maybe 15 or something like that, quite a lot. And I remembered, and I had forgotten how much I love museums. That's something that I don't do very much in Los Angeles. It's not something that I seek out in many of the cities that I go to. But being in Mexico City, I realized this is a very important piece for me. I think it reminds me of the times that I spent with my mother as a kid. My mother and I would connect and bond through museums. I remember she'd take me to New York City, and we'd go to the Guggenheim, we'd go to the Met, we'd go visit art museums. We'd do that in Houston or any city that we'd go to. That was a big way for us to connect. And I realized that it's not just something that I like to do with her, but it's something that she really did install that love of art and that love of those museum spaces, which I think are quite sacred spaces, as something that I really enjoyed tapping back into. So I'd say that was the museum scene, and the anthropological museums, incredible, and Bellas Artes, and being able to experience amazing art and culture in that city, I think through museums was a really cool thing to reconnect with. I also, my coffee passion, I've talked a lot about, anyone who knows me knows that I talk a lot about coffee. And I really enjoyed being able to experience Mexico City through coffee shops. So that's an entire other element that I really tapped into and doubled down on while I was out there. Was I searched for third wave coffee shops in Mexico City, had a great big list. I saved a lot of them, and over the course of that month, I visited many of those. And I would go in and sit with the locals and have a cup of coffee or have an espresso. And I realized that coffee is just a huge passion of mine, and that's something that stuck with me through the moment, over that course of that month. That was another big passion that I connected with. Also connecting with good friends, journaling, doodling and drawing, food, experiencing, of course, the food culture. Nothing that was particularly revolutionary, but it felt like I was investing in my own creativity and trusting and respecting myself in a way, because I was in this place and I was able to tap into these passions and hobbies. And it's led me to opening up and blossoming some new passions that have been dormant for a while, and it's been exciting to come back again and reintegrate into my life here in LA and remember all of this about myself. I think, again, the experience of living abroad is maybe not for everybody, but if you feel like, travel people are your people, or living abroad is pulling you and you have this magnetic pull toward doing it, I can't recommend doing it enough. I'm not being paid to do this, it's not sponsored, but Remote Year was a really fun way to test that hypothesis. It was, they hook you up with an apartment, you get a co-working space, you're amongst other people who also work remotely and have that nomadic lifestyle. And I think the most important piece, of course, for that is that you just connect with other people who are on this journey with you. That community is irreplaceable. It's so different from, having, if I were to do that trip on my own and just book an Airbnb and try to live on my own in the city. I think the community aspect added such a great layer. There were some really great people on that trip. I'm so happy for those that I met there. There was a very corny commercial. We were helping shoot a commercial for Remote Year while we were there. They asked people to participate. And there was a very cheesy line that they had, this commercial production company was like, can you say this one line to the camera? And the line, it has us talking amongst, I think it was a group of 3 of us talking amongst each other. And then we turned to the camera and said, I never thought I'd meet you, but I'm so glad that I did. The line sounded absurd. I think I recorded that on my, 10th day in or 5th day into the program. By the end of the program, I did this scene with a girl named Gabby, who I'll link to her TikTok. She just actually did a really cool TikTok about this experience living abroad as well. But Gabby and I, at the end of the program, were it was uncanny that this line is so cheesy, but I'm I never thought I'd meet you, but I'm so glad that I did. It's so true. I felt that way about a lot of the people on the trip. I never thought that the trip would be this impactful and meaningful and lasting and good for the soul. But I'm so glad that I did it. I'm so glad that I did it. So hopefully that helps encapsulate a little bit of my experience. Again, just to recap quickly, it helped me have a really good reset in my life that I much needed, helped me connect with my people, and helped me reconnect with my passions, connect with the things that I really do love and care about, and it gave me permission and space to go explore those. Anyway, I thought I'd share those experiences. I'm back in LA. Hopefully a lot of these passions continue, and hopefully this energy and ride continues as well as I swing back into work, swing back into life, and move into 2023. Obviously, that whole experience was a really good groundwork for me to work on my 2023 goals and inspirations for where I'd like this year to take me. Hopefully there's more travel ahead. Hopefully all of you are safe, had a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you very soon. Thanks.